kind of the vision for Missions Ministry Weekend was to find ways to share with you, the body of Christ, the part of the body of Christ known as Glenmar, ways that you have been and are actively serving the world. I'm just going to highlight a couple ways and let you hear some stories of transformation. One of our mission ministries that we engage in quarterly is our food collection ministry, which supports food closets here in Ellicott City, up in Ames Memorial United Methodist Church in Baltimore, down in Hurley, Virginia. And yesterday we sponsored the 4th annual Glenmar 5K, which is in support of the food bank here in Howard County. They raised over $7,800 and collected several hundred pounds of food. One of our very family-friendly mission ministry opportunities, probably many of you have participated, is our Day of Service, which has taken place over the last couple years. These are one-day events held on Martin Luther King Day in January. In these past two events, we've had roughly 950 people volunteer to serve in almost 20 different ministry areas, including packaging over 42,000 meals for at-risk populations. One of our partner churches both years for the Day of Service is Ames Memorial United Methodist Church in Baltimore, and a ministry that we work on jointly with them is our college and career prep ministry, where volunteers work weekly with children and youth in Baltimore to help them reach their full potential. Terrance from Ames is here to talk about his experience as a participant in that ministry.
Hi, my name is, Hi, my name is Terrance Perry. I'm 11 years old in the 6th grade. I go to middle school at Lakeland Elementary in Baltimore City. I have lots of good friends, including Jeremy, Zach, Logan, and Christopher, and more. I like to read books, play video games, and go outside. My favorite food is pizza, and my favorite movie is Captain America: Civil War. I want to be an entrepreneur and a technical engineer when I grow up, when I get older. I told Papa John, Rob, Will, and Shayla about my grades on test. I showed them my progress report card and my regular report card. So here's my question for you. What if you could do one amazing thing to change the future for the better? I will come back to this in a minute. First, let me tell you about how college and career prep operates. College and career prep is a program that connects young people in Baltimore City to tutorers and mentors in the suburbs, a lot of them here at Glenmar. I got connected to Ames by being around the corner at my grandma's house. I was hanging out with my teenage uncles, Sly and Larry, and more. I went to that robotics celebration in the basement at Ames Church. I met Papa John, and when he was taking kids to get ice cream at the corner store, I tagged along and got some ice cream as well. Papa John told me to go to Ames next Sunday. I did, but he wasn't there. Later, he told me he mostly went to church in Howard County, which is here in Glenmar. A few weeks later, Pastor Rodney Huston came around the corner. My friends and I were sitting on the steps. He approached us talking about college prep to see if we were interested, so I consulted my friends to see if they wanted to go, so they said yes. So that's when I went back into the house and I asked my cousins and uncles if they wanted to go, so they said yes as well. So that's when we all go around the corner as a package deal to Ames. And as soon as we get to the basement, I see Papa John. So that's when I asked him, hey, aren't you that dude that took me to get ice cream? He said yes. He said, yes, I am. So I was like, okay. And we shook hands. Everyone got seated, and we started college prep. We introduced ourselves, and we're talking and things like that. We had pizza, and then we went home. And that's how I got connected to college prep. Okay. College and career prep has changed my life by giving me the experience to meet new people and learn new things. It just brings these awesome and amazing people into my life, like Mr. Rob and Miss Lewis. Yeah, right there. These people are there to help the youth out with their needs like school, high school, and college. These people can help put you in a college. These people will do anything for you to get your help getting into an educational thing or getting a job. So this got me thinking that I can do this. I can go to college and have a career. It changed my life. Oh yeah. Here are some things I am doing with Ames and Glenmar. I come to Glenmar for worship services on Sundays in Sunday school. I went with Ames to walk to Bethlehem, and I was working at the market where they were selling old Roman age food like fruit and nuts and stuff like that, like stuff that they was eating in the Roman age. I went to Rock 2016 retreat at Ocean City with Ames. I almost got electrocuted with my camera battery. Everyone was asking if I was okay, and I said yeah. And Pastor Rodney took me to get help. Miss Murray got me into that Cave Quest Vacation Bible School at Glenmar this summer. It was pretty awesome. We were learning about God, playing games about God, and reading scriptures out the Bible. Lynne Sullivan here at Glenmar invited the college prep program to visit High Rock Studios in Hagerstown. It was actually fun and amazing. We got to look into virtual reality glasses and we ate pizza. Heather and Taylor here at Glenmar invited the college prep program to tour Tulsa and see a football game. Last one. All this has got me thinking about some God and Jesus. God is amazing. He works through good people to make life good for people. And he will for everybody else, just like he did for me. My future is bright. I want to have a house and a car and a big job. My future is big. So I ask you, what if you could do one amazing thing to change the future for the better? How about helping make the future big for a young person in Baltimore City? That's it.
Yeah, I feel almost guilty asking adult speakers to follow that. Well, in addition to the college and career prep ministry at Ames, we are actively engaged in partnering with Ames in a number of ministries. We host a 2 weeks robotics camp there for kids in the community every summer. We assist with their ongoing ministries like the food and the clothing giveaways. And Ames partners with us on our summer mission trips. Ames is also one of the organizations that we work with the Wish Upon a Star program. I couldn't get stats for the entirety of the program. It's been going on for about 20 years, but just this past year, Christmas 2015, Glenmar donated gifts, grocery and shoe store gift cards to 29 families that came from 5 different organizations that totaled 145 people, 96 of which were children. We also made donations to Grassroots, Fort Meade, and the Board of Child Care. Altogether, Glenmar donated about $55,000 to help others enjoy Christmas. A lot of gifts were purchased using gift cards from the gift card ministry, which is part of our extreme fundraising ministry, which may not sound like it's a mission ministry, but through the sale of gift cards, collection of box tops, labels, old cell phones, printer cartridges, all sorts of things, Glenmar's generated over $233,000 worth of proceeds in about 14 years. Some of that money goes into individual family accounts, which people use to help pay for mission trips. Now, speaking of mission trips, here's Tom Pirritano to talk about his experience of transformation he's received through his involvement in Glenmar Mission.
My name is Tom Pirritano, and I've been a member of Glenmar for over 25 years. When I first joined the church, we were at the original site over on Glenmar Road. In 2006, that was my first mission trip to Hurley, Virginia. And the story goes that Nancy, my wife, she came to me one day and said, we really need to have our nephew go on a mission trip to get a dose of reality. Little did I know, he said yes, and Nancy was really tricking me into going because I was the one that needed the dose of reality. I was traveling for work every week, and I had really lost touch with what was important and with God. On my initial mission trip, the feeling I had was the presence of God everywhere you turned. Those of us that go on mission trips understand our theme every day is look for God moments. And they continued to hit me every time I turned around, took a breath. I was overcome by the compassion and the love that everyone felt for each other, not only on the trip, but in Hurley with the families that we were working with and the members of Hurley Community Development that were there to support us. God moments that really stick out in my mind would be no one gets injured falling off a roof when they could have, not knowing how to complete a project and stopping to pray as a group within your team, and just that little break and some prayer time to God, and mysteriously you know how to do it, and it gets done well within the time parameters, before the rain comes, before the end of the day. That's a big God moment when you see that happen, and you see the youth from our church and other churches that grow into responsive young people and become aware of the God moments just like you do as an adult. The Glenmar mission trips, youth mission trips, are open to anyone, and a lot of our youth bring their friends from school who attend other churches. We're not partnered necessarily with any other churches except Ames United Methodist up in Baltimore, and they come as part of Glenmar. It's not a Glenmar, it's not an Ames, it's a youth mission trip. And we are all inclusive. We take everyone that's willing to go. The important thing is that we stress is you must be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. My first trip, I wouldn't say necessarily to transform me, but it did start a change in my life to become much more receptive, much more in touch with God and Jesus. I'm no longer hesitant to stop and pray, whether it's at work or home or driving down 95. I was very hesitant prior to going until it dawned on me on these mission trips that it's okay and God wants us to communicate and He will give us an answer. We may not like it, but we get our answer. First trip, the experience to me was so positive, I couldn't wait to share it with other members of my family and friends. When I came back with Noah and our other nephew Matthew went the same year, Nancy's younger brother Michael was told unequivocally by his two boys that he had to go next year. And he did. Lo and behold, Michael went. And it was way out of his comfort zone as well. They're not what you would call church-going regulars. And the following year, his wife Sandy joined us. But in between, they had foreign exchange students from Europe. And the foreign exchange students also came on the mission trips with us, one from Denmark and one from New Zealand. And last year, to my surprise, my wife Nancy came to Hurley, Virginia to see what it was all about, and she had a great time and loved every minute. Everyone should look for an opportunity to step outside of their normal day-to-day comfort zone, whether it's helping someone at the grocery store carry their bags out, or it's paying forward someone's toll at the toll booth, or just stopping and talking to an elderly person just randomly. Going on the mission trips, it gives us an opportunity to learn about our youth and the experiences they're having in their life, and maybe offer a little bit of positive guidance. But you find in turn the youth are giving you advice and guidance that is positive, and the youth actually are the ones that teach. Look for the God moments. We're very fortunate at Glenmar, and going on a mission trip is a commitment. We understand that, but it is a life-changing commitment. When you do it once, and with the variety of mission trips we have, there's something here for everyone in this congregation, from 8th grade to 90 years old, to come and do a mission trip with us.
I would say it's important to note that mission trip participants don't just give financially. They give time and energy on these mission trips. I've been on the staff at Glenmar almost 19 years, and in those 19 years, Glenmar sponsored about 98 mission trips through 18 organizations, 21 different cities in 11 states and 7 foreign countries. Almost 3,200 people have been sent out from this congregation to serve the world. Many of the youth and adults that go on mission trips in recent years have used funds they raised from the Green Team to help pay for their mission trips. But I want you to know that the Green Team doesn't just raise money to support mission trips. The youth involved in the leadership of the Green Team made the decision years ago that they were going to tithe the proceeds. So they give back 10% of the money that they earn through their work, and they've donated about $8,000 to mission projects and items for the church over the past 4 years. That's just one example of how the youth of this church really kind of set the example for how to serve. Children and youth of this church have collected items, assembled, wrapped, and shipped about 1,500 shoebox gift packages for Operation Christmas Child. And our youth have raised over $130,000 to to support the ministry of World Vision through their participation in the 30-hour famine. Many of our mission ministries take place right here in our own backyard, and many of them are focused on homelessness and housing issues. So here's John Fritz to talk about his involvement in these issues.
Thank you. I'm not going to sing this one. First of all, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about some of my involvement with the Route 1 Day Center. I don't know if we have a picture of Ed, but this is Ed Burles, who I met 8 years ago through the Route 1 Day Center. You may have seen Ed. He was often on the northbound ramp off of 95 onto 175. He would sit on the side of the road. And what first caught my attention about Ed was he was often reading a book. He never asked for money, never asked me for a dime, but he was reading a book. And my job with the Day Center, I would organize the monthly service. How many have ever gone down to the Day Center? If I could just get, so we got a few here as well, yeah. My job was really just kind of organizing on the monthly service, and then what we would do is I would take my van, and I would pick up and then take people back. And in between those times, I would go down to the ramp and talk to Ed, because I could never get him to come to the Day Center. This is actually the picture of Ed's first night in his first apartment, almost 2 years ago, January 2014. And you know, what I'll tell you about him, he was a homeless vet. I never served, but it was one of those things, that discrepancy kind of between somebody who had served, my dad did, and so there's something that we just connected. And I don't know, I've heard D.C. talk about it. I've not been able to necessarily go on the mission trips, but I've heard a lot of people talk about the importance of relational ministry. And this is really my first example of being able to do something like that. What I would say is I would rather Ed be up here than me and telling his story. I just couldn't get him here. He's very private. What I will tell you a little bit about Ed is that he's had a hard life. His family has rejected him. He was discharged honorably from the Air Force in '82. Shortly after that, he fell on some hard times. And when I had met him, he had been living in the woods, probably for about 15 years. You know what kind of weather we have. You can imagine in both extreme types what that's like. And the one thing that I would say that the local ministry has allowed me to do is take advantage of the fact that I can plow through red tape like nobody's business. And Ed can't. It just wears him down. And I would say I've never necessarily gotten involved with Veterans Administration, the bureaucracy and the paperwork. I will tell you it's considerable. In the 8 years that I've known Ed, it took us probably 5 trips down to Baltimore to get his VA ID card. And the thing is that Ed didn't have any identification. So if you can imagine trying to get social services without any means of ID, you need ID to get ID, is basically how that works. And he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. And it wasn't a character flaw or anything like that. He just, he'd been worn down by it. And I think if there's one thing that I have appreciated about getting to know Ed is when you see somebody who has lost hope start to get that glimmer of hope back in their eye, that is an intoxicating thing. And what I would just say is, this is one story. I know there are many. I know there's so many of you who are doing service. It's wonderful. But for me, being part of a network where the culture of service is ingrained in what we do, that has been powerful. I first got involved with the Day Center because I was in a men's group. Is Mark Harden here? I don't know if Mark is here. Maybe he goes to 11. But Mark runs a Thursday afternoon group at Barnes & Noble. And former Pastor John Knupp was doing a Bible study. We did a study on the Sermon on the Mount for a year. He connected me to Ann Dunn. Some of you know Ann, who used to be a Glenmar member here. They were just starting up the day center. I started going down there. They needed a website. I'm an IT administrator at UMBC. It's just happy accidents along the way that have allowed me to kind of get involved. It's really the fact that you have built an infrastructure for service. It's in the mission statement every day when I go out from church here and I see the servant's entrance. It makes an impact, and I've been blessed to be able to not only get to know Ed, but to work with others. But for me, I'd say the biggest lesson learned was that opportunity to go deep with somebody. Here's Ed in his apartment as well. I think you got some of the other pictures then as well, Jim. I don't know. So here's some of the other volunteers. Pam Singletary is on your left. Suzanne Lees, Carolyn Felton, Libby Boswell. I know Rob Boyle has done a lot here as well. Leo St. Cyr, there's Rob. There's a network of group that there's something to be said about being present monthly. I don't know what else to say, but sometimes when I get overwhelmed by all of the needs, the fact that I can be part of something that is a small bit, but it's regular, works in my life a lot better. For what it's worth, this is a picture of many of the volunteers. Ann was there as well. The Route 1 Day Center was the 2012 Howard County Service Volunteer Organization of the Year, and this was the picture when we got the ceremony. So I think the Ed story, I wish he were here to tell it. I just couldn't get him to get here. I know there's so many other stories, but I appreciate what Glenmar has done by giving me an opportunity to express my interest in that, scratch that itch for service. So thank you very much.
Glenmar was actually instrumental in working with Grassroots to open up the Day Center 8 years ago, and we still serve monthly preparing and serving a meal there. In addition, Glenmar does a lot of ministry with Grassroots, which runs Howard County's homeless shelter. As part of their overall services, we collect donations weekly, which are taken to Grassroots. Once a month, we serve a meal at the shelter there. And for the last 5 years, Glenmar has sponsored a golf tournament and silent auction fundraiser, which has generated over $145,000 for Grassroots. They also run the cold weather shelter, but I want you to know and take some pride in the fact that Glenmar was the church that started the cold weather shelter. We've hosted guests for 13 straight years. Some folks choose to participate in just one mission ministry, and others kind of have their fingers in a lot of mission ministry pies. And I'm going to ask Lynne Phillips to talk about her experience of undergoing transformation through one of the many mission ministries she's been involved with.
Tell a transformation story, DC said. You get 5 whole minutes. You get to go after Terrance. It'll be easy. And I've had a wealth of opportunities to experience God's presence and be changed in my time here at Glenmar, so it was really hard for me to choose a story. But of course, in the end, I landed on the story that I think DC knew I was going to pick all along. Several years ago, 17, 18 years, I'm not sure exactly how long, I was sitting in church at the old building, and I was facing something that I had never expected to face in my life. I was facing the end of my marriage and the prospect of my children going on vacation with their dad's family without me. And I was devastated. And I was looking through the bulletin, and there was a volunteers and mission trip to Puerto Rico the exact same week my kids were going to be gone. Now, I have an almost paralytic fear of flying, but I signed up and I went on the trip, and a lot of things about that trip were exactly what I thought a mission trip was going to be. We got to go and experience a different culture. I hate flying, but I love to travel. I love to see how people live all over the world, and we got to stay in Utuado, Puerto Rico. It was loud, it was boisterous, the food was pretty good, the coffee was great. So that part was just like I thought it was going to be. And I got to spend time with a group of fun, like-minded people and have a lot of fellowship. And being single, I really valued that. And that was just like I thought it was going to be. The work site was not just how I thought it was going to be. I thought you went on a mission trip and you had this job and you did it and you finished it and you got to kind of celebrate with the people that were going to be the recipients, and then you would come home and it would be good. So on the first day on the job site, we got in the van and drove at somewhat breakneck speed around the dogs and up the curvy mountainous roads in Puerto Rico to the job site, and there were 4 freestanding cinder block walls. That was it, and a clearing off the road. And there was no family there. And so I knew right away this was not going to be a job we were going to finish, even though we started discussing curtain colors, and that after talking to Leo, found out that not only was the family not there that day, they weren't even in the area, and we weren't going to get to meet them at all. And that's not what I thought it was going to be like. But we did get to spend time with members of the community, because on the property next door, there were two women, an older woman, and by older I mean probably 30, and a much younger woman and a whole lot of kids. And they were living in what we would consider deplorable conditions, not a lot of furniture, a lot of stuff on the floor. The kids were playing on burned out cars. And we got to hang out with the kids and play with them and share candy with them and parts of our lunch and shoo them away at times when they got in the way. But we did get to experience that interaction with them. And I, with my Howard County sensibilities, looked at those women and I thought to myself, why on earth would you have all those children if this was all you had to offer them? I thought that. And on Tuesday, the older woman came over. We had coolers full of food and drinks that we'd brought with us from the stores downtown, and she brought coffee to share with us as a gesture of hospitality. And somewhere along that week, Pastor Leo shared with us that the younger woman had a baby, her husband was in jail, and the older woman had taken in her and all of those other children to rescue them from lives of abuse, horrible abuse, mostly sexual. And she was using what she had to protect them and keep them safe and take care of them. And it was a big life-changing moment for me. So on the last day of the week, we stood on the woman's property and we stood in a circle and we prayed together in the mountains of Puerto Rico, and God was there. And at the end of the day, we drove away, leaving, sure, we tied rebar and we poured a lot of concrete, but we drove away leaving a shell of a building that we didn't know was ever going to get finished or who was ever going to live there. And I learned two things. I learned you don't always get to see the end. Sometimes the trip's great, and I've experienced this too. You finish the roof, you put in the plumbing, you rejoice with the family, you walk away, you feel great. But more often than not, you get in your car, you get on the plane, and you don't get to see the end. But you know that God knows why you were there and what you were supposed to get done, and if you're open to it, it will happen. The other thing that I learned was that I don't know anything about people. I don't know why they act the way they act. I don't know why they make the choices that they make. I don't know their stories. I learned that in a knockout blow on that mountain in Puerto Rico. I don't know their stories, but I know one thing. I know that God has an infinite, sacrificial, life-changing love for each of us, and that if I approach the mission trip, the day at the thrift shop, if I pull my car over on the ramp by 95, if I get in line at the grocery store, if I go to work with an open heart and an open mind and no judgment, I get a chance to help reflect a little bit of God's love to the people in this scary, hurting world. So I do know this, God is good. And all the time. And together we are changing the world.
And the reality is we just don't have enough time to talk about all the ways that Glenmar is engaged in serving the world through mission ministries. We work with organizations like the Board of Child Care, Bridges to Housing Stability, Habitat for Humanity, Help End Homelessness Howard County, PATH, the Salvation Army Thrift Shop. The ways to be in mission and to serve are as many and various as there are individuals in this room. If you have a passion to serve, you can find a ministry. We will help you find one. And if we can't find the one that you're passionate about, you are free to go out there and figure out a new one that we can help support. In fact, when you leave worship, you'll see displays from some of the many mission ministries that you've heard about today out there in the lobby. You'll also find a brand new ministry opportunity, HopeWorks, which is the Howard County Domestic Violence Center, which we're about to engage in a new round of helping another ministry. So who knows what the future holds. All I know is that God calls us to get outside of our comfort zone and to find ways to serve in the world. Amen. Because we are the recipients, the beneficiaries of a God who has infinite love, infinite grace, and infinite forgiveness, we have the opportunity to give back to God a portion of what God has given us. Sometimes that is our time and energy through service and mission, and other times it is sharing part of our financial resources. Walk in love as Christ loves us and gave himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God.